Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Life Runners podcast. A couple things we're going to be talking about today. This week has been not slow, but there hasn't been a ton that's happened. There have been a couple cool things, so I'm going to talk about those. I'm also going to go over 4 watches that we recently got in that I'm obviously going to be making videos about, which I'm very excited to do. So we'll go over each of those pieces as well. So 1 piece of news and then 4 vintage watches that I want to discuss briefly as we sort of kick off this round of videos that we're going to be doing. If you don't know, on our website we obviously blog about some of the watches that we get in, their histories, the histories of the references, the histories of the movements, and perhaps provenance if there's anything attached to them. And then we create a YouTube video to sort of show you the watch there. So that's kind of the staple of Life on the Wrist, and so you can expect more of that if you're new to Life on the Wrist. So go to lifeonthewrist.com. You can see some of the pieces that we've recently gone over. We went over a really cool chronograph from Omega that was produced in the 1950s. We covered a really exquisite condition Yagula culture in stainless steel from around that same time period, from 1960, that was gifted for I think something like 40 years of service to a company. So they really range, but I encourage you to go to Life on the Wrist if you want to check those out. So one bit of news I wanted to cover was the big announcement from Sotheby's, who have announced that Geoff Hess is going to be their new head of watches for Sotheby's America. If you don't know who Geoff Hess is, he's got a ton of experience in the watch industry, and I think is going to be a nice sort of nice person to be leading this Sotheby's, as they've kind of come into their own in the auction world. If you didn't know, last year's watch sales totaled for Sotheby's $48.5 million, which was up from $41.3 million in 2021. Which was just behind Phillips, who were at 51.5. So tons of growth for Sotheby's, and I think Geoff Hess is a great person to kind of take over the reins and be put in place for Sotheby's, who are, I think, doing great things in the watch auction world. Prior to Sotheby's, he was working at Phillips in New York, and then prior to that, he was the CEO of Analog Shift, which was a vintage and pre-owned seller that was acquired by Watches of Switzerland in 2020. Before Analog Shift, he was actually a practicing attorney. Geoff had some really cool things to say. It was nice to see that he's excited to sort of dive into it. It also was cool that I'll kind of quote this Hodinkee article that I'll leave in the show notes, but he said auction houses love to compare total sales against each other, but collectors care much more about how they are treated. This is relevant now more than ever. The hobby is permeated with concepts of access and gaining allocations, and to see the degree it can feel like the favor is being done to the customers, that ultimately can become very tiring and disheartening. What clients really want is to feel cared for. So it's gonna be an interesting to see where all this goes. With Sotheby's, I think this year has been pretty strong for them. They've had some really nice pieces that I've had the opportunity to see in person. So congrats Geoff Hess, congrats Sotheby's. Exciting news, exciting shakeup of some of the names in the watch industry, and we'll have to see how this all shakes out. As I said, I'll leave a link in the show notes. Shout out to Tony Trena, shout out Significant Watches podcast, and obviously Tony's work over at Hodinkee. All right, on to the watches that I wanted to talk about, which is really the main focus of today. So 4 new watches, very excited. They're when it comes to variety, if you thought the last 4 had some variety, there's definitely a ton of variety in these next 4. Obviously, we'll be shooting a video where we just give a brief overview of each of these watches, so stay tuned for that. And then we'll go in depth with each of them. The first one that I'm wearing is actually the watch that's on my wrist right now. It's a Longines from 1954. The reference is 727S 72440. Interesting reference number, but basically this is a really beautiful 34 millimeter Longines that was produced for the US market. It's 34 millimeters. What's really unique about this is Longines is typically known for creating gold-plated cases for the US market, but they actually did create a solid yellow gold, 14 karat yellow gold case for this watch. The case was actually manufactured by Di Vincenzo and Arienti, which was a Brooklyn-based case maker who manufactured cases for Longines, Omega, and Hamilton, to name a couple of names. So the case was manufactured in the U.S., specifically in Brooklyn, but the movement was produced in Switzerland. It's a caliber 23 ZS manual wind movement, which is a really finely created, highly respected, supremely finished movement that's really, really beautiful. What's really unique about this watch is actually the dial. So you have this sort of two-tone dial, not two-tone, but sort of two layers to the watch. You have this inner circle, and then you have this outer ring. And the outer ring has a really beautiful guilloche finish to some of the locations of the hour markers. And what's really unique about some of the other hour markers is there's 4 diamond hour markers at 12, 3, 6, and 9. So it's a really beautiful example of this reference. What's really nice and kind of why I decided to source this was I think diamonds have become a little bit more, if you want to say it, they're kind of in right now. I think watch collectors are kind of being more open to that sort of design on a watch. And so I thought this was a relevant example for the time, but still holds true to a lot of the vintage sentiment of life on the wrist. It appears that the dial might have been polished. If you look at the G on Longines, it's missing some of the features that you typically see. Specifically, when you draw a capital G, you kind of create your half circle. You go up to the middle, and then you have a line that kind of goes on top of the line that you create, and that's missing. So it's likely that the dial was either polished and that's been removed, or possibly refinished there. Nevertheless, a really beautiful example with some, really high quality finishing when it comes to the guilloche finish in the dial, the diamond indices, and then obviously the movement is absolutely phenomenal. This watch, it's been kind of my summer watch. Interestingly, I've been wearing it a ton because the condition of the case is just absolutely exceptional. I love the diamonds. It's something different, and a beautiful part of Longines' history. The next watch I want to talk about is, in my opinion, one of the coolest pieces I've had the opportunity to handle. So the watch that I'm talking about is a Universal Genève reference 166110-03, nicknamed Golden Shadow Automatic. So the Golden Shadows were part of the competition to create the thinnest automatic movement during the 1960s, and this watch dates to 1965. What you have here is a 18-karat solid yellow gold case. It's probably lightly been polished. You can still see the hallmarks and serials that are pretty strong, but not as sharp as perhaps something that's been not polished at all. The dial is a fairly simple sort of silver dial with Roman numerals. You got the hours and minutes on the dial. What's really unique about this is the movement. The movement that is used in this is the caliber 66 movement, which at the time was the thinnest automatic movement ever produced by any watch company. And what's even cooler is it's got a micro rotor. So I absolutely love micro rotors. I've spoken about them at length and how micro rotors are really something that you see in very, very high-end pieces. And Universal Genève was competing, obviously at the level where they were producing incredibly finished movements, incredibly high complications. It's a brand that I absolutely love from a vintage perspective, and I absolutely love this piece. So excited to get into it. I'm going to be posting some pictures of the movement on Instagram, which I'm extremely excited about because for me, micro rotors are just one of the coolest things ever. I'll obviously be using a loop system loop. So big shout out to NBNF and the loop system rocket ship that they produced. But anyway, a very cool piece. I really like it because obviously the micro rotor, it's obviously Universal Genève is known for their micro rotors, especially in their pole routers. But I also think it's incredible to think this brand was produced the thinnest automatic movement during this time period. It wasn't a brand like Automopedia or Vacheron Constantin type fleet. It was Universal Genève who kind of took the prize for that. So nice to think about a brand like this competing with brands that we respect so well. And I think it shows that Universal Genève deserves the similar sentiment. So, beautiful piece, 34 millimeters, solid 18 karat gold from 1965. It hard to get any better. The next piece I wanted to chat through, what we've got here, is another complication that I hold in very high regard, which is the alarm complication. So many brands produced alarm complication watches. You can think of the Memovox from Jaeger Culture, the Cricket from Vulcain, but something that one should also consider is this reference 7742 alarm from Girard-Perregaux. So they produced watches that had alarm complications as well. We've had an alarm complication watch from Girard-Perregaux before, but this one I think is so unique. So it's from the 1960s. It's a 34 millimeter stainless steel cased watch that has obviously hours, minutes, cents, or seconds, applied hour markers, printed Girard-Perregaux name, and then you've got this window towards that kind of spans between the 5 and the 7 o'clock hour marker. That is where you can set the alarm complication. What's even cooler about this piece is stainless steel case. When you look at the dial, it's got this incredibly aged dial that has this golden brown tone to it. That is so attractive, especially with the strap that we put on it. It's so attractive. It's got this golden copper tone that, if you like patina, this is a watch that you're definitely going to enjoy looking at. I think alarm complications are some of the coolest ever. I'll always say that, and I think when you think about what the alarm complication is, it's essentially a hammer that hits on the side of the case. If you think about other complications that use something similar to that, you think of minute repeaters or quarter repeaters, and that's why I think these alarm complication watches, they're underappreciated because when you think about the way that they're manufactured or how they're put together, they're using hammers that are also used in complications like minute repeaters that are so well respected and so interesting. So caliber 1109, manual wind movement. It's definitely one of a kind. I don't think you're going to see a dial like this in any other pieces that you maybe come across. All right, the last piece that we're going to be covering is from Longines. Longines is obviously a brand that I have spoken about highly. I've spoken about them a lot because I do hold them in high regard. It's another Longines, reference 1116. It's a time-only piece. You've got an hours and minutes hand in the center with a sub-seconds dial, sub-seconds cross hash at 6 o'clock. Applied hour markers, applied Longines logo, Longines printed name, watch dates to 1962, but what's really cool about this is it's 10 karat gold fill case from Schwab and Vuspot Case Company. Case is in really good condition, thin lugs, fairly thin watch, signed crown, everything is sort of all there. But what's really unique about this is it has an incredibly beautiful linen dial. Linen dials are something that allow collectors to sort of enjoy vintage watches in different ways. Most dials sometimes can feel a little bit monotonous because they look the same. I think that's why collectors are so attracted to things like patina dials or dials with diamond hour markers. But something like this where you have a completely linen dial, it definitely captures one's attention when you have the opportunity to look at it. The linen dial's in fairly good condition. If you look towards the 3 o'clock, I think there might be some patina to it where the dial isn't as pristine as maybe other areas, but it's still in very, very, very good condition. I encourage you to check the show notes so you can see pictures of it, but you'll see it's a little bit darker towards the kind of between 2 and 4 o'clock on the dial. There are some scratches on the case towards where the dial is, but still the watch is in really great condition. Another piece that excites me obviously is the fact that it has an inscription on the case back, so you've got a really cool bit of bit of history that's attached to this watch. The engraving says J.A. Zonlick from your Stanley Associates, 6/28/63. So obviously this inscription sort of likely points to the sale and gifting of this watch in 1963, which was 1 year after this watch was manufactured. I should say the movement was manufactured. And it was gifted to J.A. Zonlick from Stanley Associates, who I've done a little bit of research on. There are so many Stanley Associates, but I think it could be that this company was based in Massachusetts, USA. So just a little bit of provenance that I can do a little bit of research on to tell the story of this watch even more, and hopefully have you enjoy the piece in a greater way based on, you know, the research that I do and what you can kind of learn about the piece as we go here. So yeah, those are the 4 pieces. I'll leave links in the show notes so you can check them out, because they really are beautiful, beautiful pieces. I'm excited to jump into the videos for them, because it's always nice when you get new things in and you can kind of share the stories with them. It's also kind of why I love vintage watches, is to do the research on all these things and see references that I've never seen. So the 7742 from Genève Pergo I've seen before. I've never seen Golden Shadow before. I've never seen a 1116 from Longines before. I've never seen this 727S reference with the gold and diamond hour markers before. So exciting to jump into each of those pieces with you all. If you are new to the Live from This podcast, be sure to follow us. And if you wouldn't mind sharing this podcast with a friend who might be interested in watches, would love for them to, listen to these podcasts and hopefully get some enjoyment from them. Let me know what you think about each of these pieces. You can hit us up on our Instagram. We'd love to chat there, but you can obviously email us, livefromtherest@gmail.com, or you can also, hit us up on any of our social medias. Will be available there for you if you want to chat through anything related to watches. If I can help in any way with research or anything like that, I'm more than happy to help out. With that said, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and I hope you have a great week, and I will catch you in the next one.